Have you ever heard of a man who could be in two places at once? Or whose quiet prayers were so powerful they could protect him from deadly poison? This wasn't a character from a fantasy book, but a real person, Saint Anthony of Padua. While many people today know him as the saint who helps find lost things, his life was filled with far greater and more profound mysteries. Join us as we explore the fascinating legends and historical accounts that make Saint Anthony such a powerful and mysterious figure. Now, Anthony, who we now know as Saint Anthony of Padua, wasn't a magician with a pointy hat and a wand. His magic was different. It came from his big heart and his even bigger faith. One of the most famous mysteries of his life happened when he was a teacher. Anthony had a special book of Psalms that he had written notes in. It was his most treasured possession. One day, a student friar stole it and ran away. Anthony didn't get angry. Instead, he prayed for the book's return. Miles away, the student was terrified by a mysterious vision that demanded he return the book. He ran all the way back and begged for forgiveness. It's why today, if you lose something, you might hear someone say, "Pray to Saint Anthony." But his life was filled with other puzzling events. Because Anthony's words were so powerful and true, they made some men whose hearts were not so pure feel small and foolish. These men who disagreed with his teachings grew intensely jealous of the love the people had for Anthony. They whispered in shadowy corners, plotting a way to silence him. They decided on a cowardly plan. They would invite him for a meal, pretending to be friendly, and serve him food laced with a deadly poison. When the poisoned dish was placed before him, Anthony knew immediately that something was wrong. He looked at the men and said calmly, "Why have you done this?" They sneered and challenged him to eat it, mocking his beliefs. Instead of being afraid, Anthony calmly made the sign of the cross over the food and said a quiet prayer. Then, to the absolute shock of the wicked men, he ate the poisoned meal as if it were the most wholesome food he had ever tasted. The plotters stared, their eyes wide with disbelief and growing fear. They expected him to choke, to fall, to cry out in agony. But instead, he simply smiled at them, his eyes full of pity, not anger. The men were so utterly defeated by this powerful display of faith that they fell to their knees, admitted what they had done, and begged for his forgiveness. The mystery of how his faith protected him was a powerful lesson that good is always stronger than evil.
Hello, this is an honest appeal for support from our viewers. We haven't earned any revenue from YouTube for the past 6 months, but we continue creating content with heart and purpose. If you've been touched by our videos, we request you to take a subscription via Patreon, which will entail you to a lot of benefits, including early access and credits. Or you can make a one-time donation through PayPal. Please find the links in the description below. Every contribution makes a big difference. Thank you all for watching our videos. God bless you.
Perhaps the most beautiful and secret mystery of Anthony's life wasn't a big public event, but a quiet moment of wonder. One night, while traveling, Anthony was staying at the house of a kind man. Late into the night, The owner of the house noticed a brilliant, soft light glowing from under the door of Anthony's room, bathing the dark hallway in a soft glow. It was a light unlike any candle or lamp he had ever seen. Curious, he crept to the door and, holding his breath, peeked through the keyhole. What he saw made him gasp in awe. There was Anthony, and in his arms he was holding a beautiful, glowing child, the baby Jesus. The child was smiling and gently touching Anthony's face. The room was filled with a heavenly light and a feeling of perfect peace. The homeowner stumbled back from the door, his heart pounding, not with fear, but with overwhelming awe. He knew he had accidentally stumbled upon a sacred secret, a glimpse into heaven itself. He quietly backed away, vowing never to speak of it, keeping the beautiful image locked in his heart as a precious treasure until after Anthony had passed away. Another incredible mystery is about how Saint Anthony was in two places at the exact same time. Anthony was in Italy, but his father, back home in Portugal, was in terrible trouble. He had been falsely accused of a crime he didn't commit and was going to be punished. At that very moment, while preaching to a packed congregation in a grand church in Padua, Italy, Anthony suddenly went silent. He stopped mid-sentence, pulled the large hood of his robe over his face, and knelt down, becoming as still as a statue. The people in the church were confused, whispering amongst themselves. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, in a tense courtroom in Lisbon, Portugal, Friar Anthony suddenly appeared out of thin air. He strode confidently past the stunned guards and stood before the judge. His voice, ringing with authority, declared his father's innocence and, through a miracle, proved it. Once the truth was revealed, Anthony seemed to shimmer and vanish from the courtroom as mysteriously as he had arrived. At that exact same moment back in Italy, he lifted his head, pushed back his hood, and continued his sermon right where he had left off, his voice calm and steady. These are just a few of the many mysteries of Saint Anthony's life. He was a man of simple kindness and mighty faith, and his life shows us that the world is full of wonders if we only open our hearts and minds to see them.